Australia's Deputy Prime Minister and Treasurer Wayne Swan is on a 3-day visit to China. While he's there, Swan is expected to push for direct Australian dollar renminbi conversion to help ease two-way trade between the two countries. Australia's booming economy has been largely driven by our mining sector, which has been supported by China's demand for resources. But my next guest says our economy could be in danger. Andy Xie, independent economist, joins me live from our studios over in Hong Kong. Andy, you know, when you look at your views that have been widely reported on the Australian situation, one of your biggest warnings to traders out there is that Australia could well be the next Spain, and a lot of that is to do with the fact that Australia is too dependent on China. Explain what you mean exactly by that.
Well, I think that Australia has had a mining boom, but at the same time, we have seen it attract a lot of foreign money. And that's driving us a property bubble. And in Spain, it was the government bonds that attracted foreign money, because foreigners thought the Spanish bonds had high interest rate and very attractive. And that foreign money pumped up a property bubble. And during the bubble, the Spanish government ran surpluses, and the economy was very strong. But the giveaway was losing competitiveness, very high cost, and that's what we're seeing in Australia today. And when the foreign money is tied with the mining boom, as the global commodity prices come down, I think the foreign money will decline, and that means the property bubble will burst.
Let me ask you about, the relationship between the two countries. Before we get into the property side of the equation, Andy, we spoke to Paul Bloxham from HSBC on Monday. I just wanted you to take a listen to what he had to say when I put forward your views to him.
I think, look, anything is possible. That's fair to say. But I think you'd have to build a world where you saw a very sharp fall in commodity prices, probably off the back of a much weaker China story, and then you would still have a whole range of things that would mean that Australia would still be reasonably well supported.
And Andy, on the top of that, we've got relatively low levels of public debt. We've got the government hoping to post a small budget surplus next financial year. And of course, we've still got quite a lot of room to devalue the currencies, all of which makes us quite different from the situation in Spain. Is that not correct?
Oh, well, I think on the currency flexibility side it is, but on the fiscal surplus and a low government debt, Spain had the same thing. And I think that Australia will face either a big devaluation or a property crash that will take down the banking system. I think what's going on is that the people extrapolated a Chinese demand, and Chinese demand was pumped up by a property bubble too, and so Chinese demand overshot, and instead of being cautious, I think the investors stretched out. So that's why the way down is going to be very painful.
Exactly what is going to cause the property crash? I mean, this is a part of your argument which I'm not fully clear on, simply because we know that the demand is there for property continuing in Australia. We know that places like Sydney are, one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in.
Yeah, well, I think in Spain was the same thing. In a lot of attractive places, the prices were extremely high, and foreigners were pouring money in. I think what's going on in Australia is very similar. But when the economy turns down and foreign money leaves, the liquidity will tighten up. And any bubble is about liquidity. And Australia, it depends on foreign liquidity. And Australia has increased foreign debt by 150%. Now, at 50% of GDP, it's one of the highest in the world. So I think it's reasonable to argue that the Australian economy depends on foreign money. So this way is tied up with this outlook for the commodity sector. When China slows down, is shown to be long-lasting, and when the global market changes its view, I think the money will stop going to Australia. That's when the big adjustment happens.
Where's the catalyst for the slowdown here, Andy? I mean, we're talking about growth rates in China. We get the GDP print on Friday. We're still talking about growth rates of between 7 and 8%. I mean, that's at the envy of many other developed countries.
Well, I think you look at if instead of a top-line GDP growth rate, and that is, I think, is not entirely accurate. If you look at the economy, the micro data, the railway cargo traffic is not rising, and electricity consumption for industry is very rising. I think that the property side, if you go around the country. And most, I think maybe most property projects have stopped construction. I think this Chinese economy is actually in a pretty dire shape. So I think that this is due to overbuilding in the property sector. Now, 7 billion square meters under construction. I'm not sure how much of that will be completed. I think that the adjustment will take many years.
Okay, all right. It certainly is a bearish view, Andy. We hope that doesn't all come to pass. We will be watching it very closely, and we do appreciate your time. We hope to speak to you again soon.